What I think I want to do right now is read this article to you that was written by a Paul Lenda that was posted on the website Waking Times. And it is entitled How Solar Flares Directly Affect Human Consciousness. Now, I talked a little bit about it briefly in the last video, but this article gets very specific. So if you want to listen while you cook dinner tonight, or, do some exercise or whatnot, feel free to do so. I feel compelled at the moment to read this article to some of you that may not have heard this information before. And even though I'm working on my own report, there's a lot of things that I've learned that aren't in this article. It's written very well. So let me go ahead and read this. And by the way, there is a link to this article down in the description box. And it links you to my website, alexansary.tv. And I just launched my first newsletter. So I would appreciate it if you enter your email into the box. That way you'll get my videos, you'll get my coming weekly TV show, future podcasts, and weekly news all in your email. No need for YouTube, no need for Facebook. So let's get started with this article that was initially published on July 23rd, 2013 by Paul Lenda. Everything within this dense configuration of reality that we call the universe is interconnected. Through this interconnectedness, everything affects everything else, from the dawn of human spiritual experiences to present-day scientific discoveries. The reality of oneness and interconnectedness has continued to permeate as a recurring aspect of existence within the vastness of what we refer to as reality. We are realizing, with a continuously growing conviction, that change and transformation, whether it be in society, consciousness, or otherwise, is directly affected by other elements of our universe that we sometimes fail to realize has the ability to affect us in transformative ways. These connections, which many times are unable to be seen through the limited field of human awareness, act as a two-way portal and tunnels through which energy particles and fields travel through. Now, this may seem like something out of a science fiction story, but has time and time again been proven to be very genuine, to be a very genuine part of our reality. It was only in 2008 that it was publicly stated that there are magnetic poles that connect the sun's magnetic field with the Earth's. A year earlier, scientists uncovered an elaborate and vast web of cosmic filaments, hundreds of millions of light years long, that connect galaxies to each other. Not only are the sun and the earth linked with each other, but so are galaxies light years upon light years away. Distance is no obstacle for the interconnectedness of our universe. Getting back to the sun and the earth, we come to a very significant and important realization that solar flares have a direct effect on everything that exists on our blue marble, even human consciousness. Solar flares were found to directly affect the mental and physical state of humans in 2008, and 3 years later, we are seeing just how true that finding truly is. The sun has such incredible power that it's able to send solar flares shooting into the Earth's atmosphere and affecting its electromagnetic energy field, as well as affecting each person's electromagnetic energy field. When we look at profound shifts in society and consciousness, we find the pineal gland to be of particular importance. Yes, this tiny part of our brain, it's in the middle of the brain, that has been professed to be a DMT production laboratory acting as our gateway into more subtle planes and dimensions of reality, also regulates circadian rhythm and melatonin production. It is incredibly sensitive to magnetic fields. And the reason for that is because we have high concentrations of magnetite in the human brain. I have to throw that in. The case for solar flares directly affecting human consciousness is of utmost importance right now, since we can see all around us and within our own lives the intense changes and transformations occurring. These changes are exacerbated by the electromagnetic forces at play around us. The Russian scientist Tajinsky put together the histories of 72 countries. Alexander Chevetsky. And what he did, he put together the histories of 72 countries beginning at 500 BC and culminating in 1922 within the present era. And I talk a little bit more. I talk about this person in my solar flare presentation, and there'll be more information about him in my PDF. He constructed an index of mass human excitability, in which he found that 80% of the most significant human events occurred during a 5-year period surrounding the peak of solar activity. So most of the stuff happening within a period of time, within the peak of the solar flares, or the solar cycle. What this discovery shows us is that when solar geomagnetic activity is changing the fastest, it has the greatest potential to affect our moods, behavior patterns, creativity, and trends. We are in for quite an interesting next few years, according to Paul. And yes, I've been seeing this for years and years and years. It is getting very, very interesting the way things are going. There is a positive side note to the increase in the sun's activity. Periods of increased solar activity don't just correlate with societal unrest, but gives us rise to innovation and enhanced imagination in architecture, the arts, and science. The old social structures, which are not helping humanity become more consciously evolved, must be replaced with more suitable and sustainable models. Above all else, this is the time of opportunity and possibility and the chance to use these rushes of energy to create humanitarian advances in a sustainable living environment. Something that each and every one of us can do to increase the emotional balance and coherence within ourselves. Harmony is essential in times of chaos. This will enable us as individuals to use these influxes of energy to our advantage. When we raise our internal coherence, we can positively affect our personal relationships and our social environment, which will also be positively reflected in the collective consciousness of humanity. We're almost done. And then I'll give my comments afterwards. We are all affected slightly differently by these cosmic forces, such as solar flares, which is why one person may be affected negatively, whereas another may be affected in a positive way. A very good point. A point that needs to be made when looking at how we're affected by solar flares, because you can get just a wide spectrum of effects, depending on the level of consciousness of the person being affected by the solar flare, by the geomagnetic storm. Those individuals who have compressed anger, fear, or jealousy will see their energy fields weaken. Our thoughts help shape and create our reality, and it should be of little surprise that the toxic emotions and feelings that we may choose to marinate within our minds may result in the weakening of our energy fields, leading us to be more vulnerable to the negative effects of these electromagnetic solar energy influxes. In order for us to not get into such a downward spiral, we need to identify the negative emotions before we are able to resolve them. We need to be aware of what's going on and why we feel what we feel, not just be reactionary. If our electromagnetic energy field is weakened, we become more likely to be significantly affected by the increased solar activity. The increase in solar activity activates compressed jealousy, anger, and fear in our minds, no matter if we are conscious or unconscious of the process. If people have not been working on healing these issues, the issues become stronger and magnified when there is a period of increased solar activity as there is now. We are living in a difficult period of our timeline, yet we should not allow ourselves to become sad about the state of everything, because we can use this period to our advantage. Let's use this period of increased solar energy to create great opportunities for positive social transformation. The world desperately needs it. And that was written by Paul Lenda. And his website is shift.is. And I'm going to have a link to what I just read down in the description below. So what he said about ineffectiveness in positive and negative ways is something that I've been talking about for some time. People tend to look at it exclusively as a conscious expanding experience. And the way that we see people behave is not exactly something that I would describe as being conscious. A lot of the times the way people behave. It's not sitting down in a lotus position and meditating and aligning the chakras. It's flipping the fuck out. It's because of those emotions that he's talking about. And there's other information that I could continue to discuss, and I understand that this is a very popular topic, and it happens to be one of my favorite topics, but it's not something that I've been focusing on the last couple months. You know, I've been planning on bringing back a weekly news show where I cover a lot of different news, but I understand that there's also a lot of interest in this topic, and I've already written a 90-page PDF on this topic, on how solar flares affect human consciousness. I get a little bit more detailed into the wars and international battles that have taken place around the start or end of a solar peak. And there's many people that have verified the science behind this. That yes, in fact, there is a pattern here. We see new scientists even saying in a report in 2008 that there is a link between suicides and geomagnetic storms. And when I hear that, it makes more sense to me that there's a reason why the power elite is so successful at tricking out-of-balance men into going to war. Because they're more likely to die for someone's cause, or a cause. There's something about the way that we are affected by these magnetic fields that creates this to almost fuck it type of an attitude. We want to be conscious of how we're affected, and we want to make it a positive thing. I know people have different views on astrology, and I don't get deep into it, but I do believe that we are affected by the stars, by energies, by each other, by our own thoughts. I mean, that's common sense. It has nothing to do with worshiping any of these planets, actually, but an understanding of how we're affected by things like how we're affected by clean water or dirty water, or alcohol or juice. You know, we are affected by certain energies, some of us more so than others. So you may not feel what others feel. So have a little bit of compassion for those that are more empathetic than you. And for those of you that do have feelings, understand that there are others that may not have the same feelings you do, so they won't be able to have the same empathy. You're going to have to find a way to ground that out. And that is another conversation perhaps we can have on another video. But I would really appreciate anyone that is new to my channel if you subscribe to my channel, if you share my videos. I don't make money doing these videos. I'm completely freelance. And I'm still currently, in a way, traveling around the country, even though I've been in rural Colorado for some time. So I would appreciate you sharing the information, and most of all, signing up for the AlexAnswery.tv newsletter on the right-hand side of AlexAnswery.tv, which is a site you can find down below in the link section, because from there, if you click on the link, you will find the article by Paul Lenda that I just read. Tell me what you're thinking in the comment section. What have you learned about how the sun can affect human consciousness? Is this a conversation that interests you? Is this something that you've seen in your own life? Are you feeling the changes in the air? And it's not just changes from the sun, but it certainly seems like the sun is a major driving force. Certainly of life-creating energy, and also energy that at times can be destructive. Creation and destructive energies seem to be heightened by the sun itself. So let me know in the comment section if this is something that you want to hear me talk more about, because I have a lot more information that I haven't yet brought to YouTube. And so this is going to be a very interesting conclusion to 2013. Moving into 2014 and 2015. 2015 being the tail end of the solar peak, according to NASA. The sun's magnetic poles have yet to flip. Scientists have been watching the magnetic poles of the sun for some time now, several years, and predicting with not very much accurate success when the magnetic poles of the sun are actually going to flip. But that is, I believe, going to be a very interesting time of great change on the planet. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, and of course, please subscribe to the newsletter at AlexAnswery.tv.